out at the moment in Switzerland. From I don't know. I'm not sure because I don't know exactly what the law is. But I would say that athletes' biometric data belongs to athletes because it's very personal information. Then maybe they deal with their club or with their federation or whatever for a use of that. But then if it goes out to the media, then you definitely need to have the agreement of the athletes, I suppose, or the club or whatever. But I think it's a very slippery
But
way.
can this data actually, be useful to you? Right?
Oh, useful. That was your question.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yes, I suppose so. I suppose it would depend on the topics, but maybe for commentators when they analyze a match or a competition, maybe yeah. All data are about, we use lots of statistics and lots of data already in sports journalism. So I suppose that personal information about the athletes could be useful, but then if it depends for what use. I suppose it's interesting because it gives you additional information about a player's performance or why a player has been good or not good. For example, in tennis, they have good days, they have bad days. But if you, for example, you know that I don't know.
Federer didn't sleep well, yeah?
No, yeah, exactly. Well, he is retired now, so let's talk about that. I don't know if, for example, Novak Djokovic had a fondue the night before, and maybe he doesn't play as well as he usually do. Then maybe it would add it would add information to analyze the performance. But as I said, it's very slippery because you mentioned the betting companies, and they're already. It's already horrendous what some players have to deal with because of the betting companies. On the social networks, especially on Twitter. Some tennis players, for example, they get insults because they've had a bad day. Because people have the feeling that they lose lots of money because of a bad performance, of a bad result from a player they've been betting on. So can you imagine if that community have information about the way of life? What a player have. If a player had a party the night before, professional players normally they have a routine, they're in good health, and they're not gonna eat a fondue or go out partying the night before. But you never know. And I think if I were an athlete, I wouldn't like that at all. But I don't know. Maybe they're paid lots of money, and money is everything. That's the problem. Definitely. And you mentioned, it's a gray area because I suppose that some professional players would go beyond that. I don't know how to. Would maybe go there for money because people are sometimes ready to do anything for money, but I think it should be forbidden. Because it's an open door to a lot of
issues.
Yeah, a lot of issues and a lot of. I think it's still probably a different world, though. You have some very serious media in the US, I suppose. Covering tennis, I work in an association with journalists from all around the world, and the guy from the New York Times is a very serious journalist. But I suppose, well, that's the United States. They they go. I mean, you think that anything is possible there, and I think in Europe, things
There are
have
some boundaries.
yeah, there are probably bigger boundaries, but you never know, because sometimes things that start in the US end up here. No, but you can see now that with Netflix, you know, they do all those documentaries where you now more and more manage to go behind the doors. But what they normally do, and I can see that in tennis, is that they want to do their own. I mean, they probably have a contract with ATP or with the slams, and you know, there's at the moment there's a Netflix documentary about tennis which fans love because they see everything behind the doors. But that's something we media hardly get. I mean, but I suppose there's big money behind that. And what I know, for example, ATP, they like to do their own. If they could, they wish they could provide their own film and products for TVs to broadcast them more. Or, you know, I mean, in written press, I suppose it's a bit different, but especially in TV, they wish they could provide you with the interviews of the players, provide you with because then this way they decide what you show. So that's another slippery, but I suppose we are a little bit out of the subject here. But what I mean is, maybe they will at one stage, you know, negotiate some data with the athletes for a certain use. But I mean, it depends what we're talking about, because if you say, okay, we can measure the heartbeat of a golf player, maybe it could be interesting, you know, for a media to analyze that, to show what it takes, because maybe you can have a story about, for people, golf is not a very, you know, demanding physical sport. People think that it's nothing like cycling or Nordic skiing, but with this information you realize and you see golf different. I mean, there are lots of stories that could be interesting using some of these data, but it depends which data and how they're used. Because again, if it's a way to blame a football player or a tennis player or a ski player or whatever, because you find out through these data what he's been doing the day before, or I mean, it could be very intrusive. And so as you say, it's a very fine line. I think if it's used with a frame that is very clear,
very well clear,
yeah, beforehand, maybe it can be useful. And but I mean, I don't know. It's a question of human rights, because I mean, so it's a very very interesting topic, I think. But it's and I think they better be prepared to have specific rules about that. I mean, it's like when music. I mean, it's like with the music rights with all the platforms now. You know, there are gray areas. I mean, I have friends who are lawyers specialized in that in London, for example, and I think they will need very quickly to have lawyers specialized in this. And otherwise, how do you say TAS in English? You know, the arbitral sports court. Yeah, will have lots of work. I mean, in the US for years, sports have been a show. You know, I mean, especially, I mean, some of the big sports are really more of a show probably than in Europe. Though lots of sports try to, you know, because money is guiding everything, they try more and more to make it a show. And these information could, of course, you can see why it's getting big. But I think if it's getting big quickly in the US, the problem will come to Europe too. I mean, even though in Europe, I think everything is more
regular.
is more yeah,
Regulations are more
the
open.
regulations are stricter and
Clear, you know.
but for sure I
Yeah.
think media, from a media point of view,
Yeah.
I think that media, because the athletes will sell this information but not to media, unless it's the media who are already paid, like Netflix, who will pay them a lot of money, because media won't get that. I mean, of course, some of this information will be useful, but I think the role of the media there will be to show how dangerous it can be, and there'll be lots of stories about, you know, about. I mean, it will become a topic for sure of interest for the media, but I don't think medias will get, unless if you know, I don't know, a big TV channel pays a fortune to get the rights for football, or for, and maybe it's included in the package. You never know, because now, for example, during the World Cup that we just had, the Soccer World Cup, I mean, we with the rights we get a lot of information, a lot of statistics, a lot of, you know, datas, and so will one day that be included in the package? You never know. I mean, because, so, you know, and then what would we do with that?
That's the question. What can you do with it? What can actually you do with it?
Well, there's always stories to do with
Yeah.
it, but I think that firstly, what the media should be interested in it is in covering this topic, to show what the danger can be, and you know, and
Prevent
and
some injuries,
yeah, and I mean, yeah, and to I don't know, but it'll be interesting to speak with an athlete for sure, because I think it's a part of their life we're talking about, and that's a bit scary. I find it a bit scary, and I mean, because then you don't know what people will do with it, and especially with the betting point of industry. I mean, they already get hammered after. I mean, on the social networks after bad results. Can you imagine if people know more about why maybe they had a bad result? That would be terrible. And all that will make a big, I mean, you know, if you know that one football player who's paid millions doesn't play well because whatever he's been doing the days before, that could be, that for sure would be big stories for media, and some media would love it. But I think that's scary.